The sky's not eternal. It only seems too high to be brought down. There was a time when the very heavens trembled at the sound of invisible footsteps crossing the marble of Olympus. The master of thunder, lord of storms, he whose name was whispered before battles and shouted during shipwrecks, lived surrounded by a threat he could not strike with his lightning bolts. Zeus ruled the world, but he did not rule the future. He knew how stories begin. A son is born, a father trusts. Power matures in silence. Then, on a moonless night, the throne changes hands. That was how it was with his own father. That was how it was with the Titans. The cycle needed no approval. It only needed time. There was a prophecy hanging over him, like a blade suspended by an invisible thread. A descendant would surpass him. It was not a matter of strength. It was destiny. And destiny is not fought with clenched fists. It weaves itself into the subtext of decisions. Every new birth was a suspicion wrapped in divine flesh. Every admiring glance could conceal calculation. The king of the gods began to see rivals in his own children, betrayal in his own alliances, downfall in his own triumphs. And so, while mortals feared storms, the Lord of the skies feared something deeper, repeating his own story. Because when a god learns that power can be taken, the whole sky learns to crack. This is not the glorified version told in the temples. Here there are no triumphant hymns, nor golden images suspended in the clouds. Here, tension builds beneath the surface. A heavy silence lingers between stone columns, and a king has never relaxed his shoulders since the day he took the throne. At the top of Olympus, where the wind cuts like a cold blade and the clouds circle like sentinels, Zeus seemed unshakable. His lightning bolts were sentences, his voice a decree. But beneath the grandeur there was constant calculation. Who could bring him down? When? How? The power he gained by defeating Cronus did not bring peace, it brought awareness. He knew that every empire is born with invisible cracks. And he also knew that his own father believed himself invincible before the fall. If you enjoy stories where gods are not static symbols, but creatures shaped by fear, desire and mistrust, subscribe now. Leave a like to strengthen this dark journey, and write in the comments which country and city you're watching from. I want to map out just how far the echo of Olympus is reaching. Steady your breath. What you're about to hear is not just a tale about a powerful god. It's a portrait of what happens when the throne becomes a prison and the sky a ceiling about to collapse. Before he ruled, Zeus was a threat. His father, Cronus, devoured his own children as if eliminating dangerous variables. There was no hesitation, only cold calculation, to stop the prophecy before it could draw breath. But a tiny flaw changed the course of the cosmos. A newborn was hidden away. A stone wrapped in cloth took his place. The deception was simple, but the effect was colossal. The son, who was meant to disappear, grew up on the fringes of power, nourished by tales of siblings imprisoned in their father's stomach. The young Zeus learned early on that power is not inherited, it is seized. Every story about his father's tyranny was fuel accumulating within him. He grew not only in physical strength, but with a clear sense of purpose. Freeing his siblings was not an act of compassion, but a strategic move. When he finally confronted Cronus, he did not do so as a son seeking reconciliation, but as a walk-in sentence. He forced him to give back what he had consumed. Each regurgitated deity was a potential alliance. The war that followed was neither brief nor clean. Sky and earth were torn apart in a conflict that echoed through the ages. Titans against emerging gods. The old order against youthful ambition. Zeus did not win by brute force alone. He triumphed through unlikely alliances and precise calculation. He freed forces imprisoned beneath the world, ancient creatures who hated Cronus enough to fight by his side. He turned collective resentment into military strategy. When Cronus fell, there was no celestial applause. There was silence. The kind of silence that comes before the universe is rearranged. Zeus took the throne amidst the ruins of a bygone era. But while the others celebrated freedom, he watched the shadows. He knew that every revolution carries the seed of repetition. What he had done to his father could one day be done to him. At that moment, the sky was no longer just conquered territory. It had become a stage for constant vigilance. Zeus had conquered the past, but ushered in a tension that would never leave him. Olympus was rebuilt on the promise of stability, but stability is not born from violence. It merely follows it for a time. Zeus divided power among his brothers, established hierarchies, and organized divine roles. However, the sharing did not eliminate the risk, it merely redistributed it. Every ally was also a potential competitor. Every gesture of loyalty could conceal ambition. By his side was Hera, the rightful queen, sharp-minded and with a long memory. Their marriage was not a whirlwind romance, but a political arrangement, yet Zeus could never manage to stay within the boundaries he himself had set. His countless affairs were not merely impulses, they were unconscious attempts to expand his influence, produce powerful offspring, and spread his mark across the world. However, each new child rekindled the echo of the prophecy. He began to watch his own offspring like a general inspecting future rivals. Excessive strength aroused suspicion. Sharp intelligence set off alarms. What should have been continuity turned into a statistical threat. For Zeus, fatherhood was never a simple affection. It was a minefield. The storms became more frequent, not because the world demanded it, but because he needed to reaffirm his supremacy. Lightning slashed across the sky like a repeated signature. I still command, I still decide, I still remain. The problem is that constant displays of power reveal inner fragility. Those who feel secure have no need to prove their dominance at every moment. The throne was solid, but the sovereign's mind was becoming unstable. Paranoia began to shape decisions, and decisions shaped destinies. There came a moment when a new prophecy reached Zeus's ears. A son born from a certain union would surpass his father in wisdom and strength. The reaction was immediate. There was no consultation, no deliberation, only absorption. He swallowed the pregnant goddess to prevent the birth. A brutal strategy, almost mathematical, but the future does not dissolve in the stomach of a god. Time works with other tools. Months later, an unbearable pain pierced the sovereign's skull. The blow that split his head did not bring death, but birth. From within him emerged Athena, armed, lucid, complete. The episode was an unequivocal warning. Not even preventative self-sacrifice guarantees absolute control. Zeus realized that fate does not attack head-on, it infiltrates. From that moment on, every decision carried double the weight. It was not enough to act, it was necessary to anticipate invisible consequences. He began to avoid certain alliances, to distance possible threats before they could mature. He turned prevention into obsession. However, the more he tried to bend the course of events, the clearer it became that the universe did not respond solely to his will. The king of the sky understood something unsettling. Defeating external enemies is a tangible task, but defeating the inevitable is another story. The tension did not come only from his descendants. At a certain point, even the gods of Olympus conspired against him. The idea of chaining Zeus while he slept spread like a spark in a dry field. It was not open rebellion, but accumulated wear and tear. To rule through fear produces silence, but it also produces hidden alliances. When he uncovered the plot, his reaction was not surprise, but confirmation of old suspicions. He'd already been expecting betrayal. The difference was that now it had familiar faces. From that episode onwards, trust became a scarce resource. Zeus intensified his surveillance, interfering more in the lives of mortals, as if controlling human narratives could make up for divine instability. Each intervention was a show of strength and an attempt at symbolic reaffirmation. Olympus became a place of contained tension. Formal smiles concealed calculations. Banquets hid silent assessments of power. The king maintained a proud bearing, but inwardly he weighed up the odds. The crown was heavy not because of its gold, but because of the constant expectation of rupture. Zeus was never overthrown, but he lived as if a fall was always just a step away. This permanent state shaped his leadership, his alliances, his excesses, and his punishments. The cycle begun with Cronus never left his mind. He understood better than anyone else that all absolute power carries an invisible expiry date. Even if it never comes to pass, the possibility changes behavior. His children grew up, each with their own abilities, each with their own distinct potential. Some were loyal, others too independent for their father's comfort. The sky remained firm. Storms continued to obey, but stability did not silence the internal noise. Fear became a constant companion, silent, almost intimate. And so Zeus reigned, not as a serene deity, but as a sovereign who understood all too soon that the sky, no matter how vast it may seem, could one day collapse upon the one who rules it. The sky did not fall, the throne remained occupied, but Zeus's true battle was never fought against titans or conspirators. It was fought against the inevitable repetition of history. Absolute power did not bring serenity. It brought eternal vigilance. He ruled the world, but never freed himself from his own prophecy. Because on Olympus, as among mortals, the greatest enemy of a king is not the approaching army, but the future that quietly takes shape.